Elias Moreno lived quietly on the edge of the colony world called Iridian 5. His small ranch sat between rolling plains and a rocky hill, where the wind sang softly through the tall grasses. Life had always been simple for Elias. He woke with the sun, tended to his livestock, and spent long hours repairing fences or mending broken equipment. There were no neighbors nearby, and that suited him just fine. The stars above, vast and endless, were his only company at night. On this particular evening, the sky was not like any other. Elias noticed it first as a faint shimmer on the horizon. At first, he thought it was the reflection of a rare meteor shower, which happened sometimes on Iridian 5, but as the minutes passed, the shimmer grew brighter, spreading across the sky like a slowly moving curtain. Colors he had never seen before, greens, purples, and deep blues shifted and twisted in strange patterns. Elias stepped out of his small wooden house and squinted up at the sky. His hand rested on the fence post, feeling the rough wood under his palm. Something about the colors made him uneasy. He was not a superstitious man, but the sensation in his chest felt like a warning. Something unusual was happening. Just as he was about to retreat indoors, he noticed movement at the edge of the plain. Two figures were walking carefully, their forms barely visible in the growing twilight. Elias furrowed his brow. Travelers were rare this far out, and the night brought cold wind and sharp rocks. Whoever they were, they would not last long without shelter. Elias called out, his voice carrying across the plains. "Hello, over here." The figures stopped. For a moment, they seemed unsure. Then one of them stepped forward, a woman with dark hair tied in a braid, wearing simple clothing but with a kind of presence that made Elias pause. Beside her was a younger woman, her movements quick and careful, eyes scanning the horizon. "Please," the first woman called out, her voice calm but firm. "We need shelter. The storm. It is coming." Elias glanced at the sky again. "Storm?" he asked, though he did not see the usual signs of wind or rain. "It doesn't look like rain to me." The woman shook her head. "It is not rain. It is the sky itself. It shifts tonight. It will take everything if we are not careful." Elias hesitated. He had lived on Iridian 5 all his life. Strange things were not new here. Storms of sand, solar flares, occasional magnetic anomalies, but nothing like this. Yet, there was something in the woman's voice that made him trust her. He stepped back. "Come in then. My house isn't much, but it's warm." The women nodded gratefully. They approached slowly, their boots crunching on the rocky ground. Elias opened the door wide. "Hurry inside. Sit by the fire. I'll get some blankets." Inside, the small house smelled of wood smoke and dust, but it was cozy. Elias had a simple fireplace, a few chairs, and a table where he ate his meals alone. The women settled by the fire, brushing dust from their clothing. "I'm Elias," he said, returning with a pair of blankets. The older woman smiled faintly. "My name is Althea, and this is my sister, Nizoni. We have been traveling for many days. The storm, or the sky anomaly, it came sooner than we expected. We did not want to risk it on the plains." Elias laid the blankets over the chairs. "You chose well. It's dangerous out there at night." Althea's eyes glimmered in the firelight. "It is more than danger. It is change. Something that has not happened in generations." Elias blinked. "Change? How do you mean?" Nizoni spoke this time, her voice soft but certain. "The stars are speaking. They shift for those who are willing to listen." Elias frowned, unsure if he understood. "Stars? Speaking?" Althea nodded. "Yes, the sky is alive with stories. Tonight, it remembers." Elias shook his head slowly. He wanted to believe her, but it sounded like one of the old legends his grandmother once told him as a child, stories meant to entertain, not warn. Yet, something in the room, the way the fire flickered and the colors outside the window changed, made him pause. He sat down across from them. "Tell me about it," he said, curiosity growing despite himself. The sisters exchanged a glance. Then Althea began. Long ago, before humans settled on Iridian 5, our ancestors were given a responsibility. We were to protect the memory of humanity, its wisdom, its stories, its values through generations and across worlds. The stars themselves are witnesses to what we carry, and sometimes, the stars awaken, testing us, asking who remembers what it means to be human. Elias leaned forward, fascinated despite himself. And you think the sky is awake tonight? Althea nodded. Yes. It has chosen to speak, but it chooses carefully. Only those with hearts rooted in the earth, with lives lived honestly, and with care, can hear it clearly. Elias felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had never thought much about being chosen or special. He had always been a simple rancher, living day by day. And yet, looking at the sisters, he felt as if something important was happening, something beyond his understanding. For a long while, the three of them sat in silence, watching the sky through the small window. The colors shifted like ribbons across a canvas, deep purples melting into brilliant greens. For a moment, the plains outside seemed to glow. The wind itself carried whispers, soft and melodic, like faint echoes of songs. Finally, Nijoni spoke. The sky asks questions. It will reveal things only when the right person listens. Elias frowned. Questions? What kind of questions? Althea smiled. A gentle but mysterious smile. Questions about who we are. About what we carry. About what humanity has learned, and what it will teach again. Elias felt a chill, though the fire was warm. He looked at the sisters, then at the sky. I don't know if I can answer. You already have, Nizoni said softly. Just by choosing to care, to help, to offer shelter. That is the first answer the sky seeks. Elias blinked. The truth of her words settled into him slowly. He had not thought of his life in such terms. He had lived quietly, alone, tending his land. Yet, in that quiet, he had protected life. He had nurtured it. Maybe that mattered more than he had ever realized. The wind outside grew stronger, carrying the soft hum of the plains. The sky pulsed, brighter now, a living dance of color. Elias felt a strange connection to it, as if the world itself were alive, listening to their conversation. The sisters watched him carefully, their expressions calm but knowing. Tonight, Althea said, you will see more than the sky. You will see what it means to carry humanity forward, in ways no one could imagine. Elias swallowed, a mix of fear and excitement bubbling inside him. And what will I have to do? Nizoni shook her head. Nothing yet. Just listen. Observe. Be ready. The night will guide you. The fire crackled. Outside, the colors shifted once again. More vivid now, reflecting in Elias's wide eyes. For the first time in his life, he felt as though the ordinary world he knew had expanded into something vast and full of possibilities. He realized then that this night, which had begun as any other on his quiet ranch, was far from ordinary. The presence of the sisters, the strange sky, and the whispered stories of memory and humanity had opened a door he had not known existed. Elias leaned back in his chair, letting the warmth of the fire spread through him. I think I understand. Or at least, I want to understand. Althea's eyes glimmered. That is all the sky asks. The rest will come in time. As the night deepened, the three sat together, listening to the wind, watching the sky, feeling the subtle pulse of something much larger than themselves. For Elias, this simple act of offering shelter had transformed the ordinary ranch into a threshold, an entrance into a story far greater than he had ever imagined. And outside, the sky breathed. The wind had died down by morning, leaving the plains calm and still. The strange colors of the sky had faded into soft shades of pink and orange as the sun rose over Iridian 5. Elias woke early, as he always did, but he felt a strange weight in his chest, a mixture of excitement and unease. The events of the previous night lingered like a quiet song in his mind. When he stepped outside, he saw the sisters moving about his small yard. Althea knelt to examine the soil near his garden, running her fingers through the dirt with care. Nizoni was by the livestock, quietly checking the animals and whispering soft words to them. Elias noticed the gentleness of their movements, and it struck him how they seemed connected to the land itself. "Good morning," he said, stepping toward them. Althea looked up and smiled. "Morning, Elias. Did you sleep well?" He shrugged. "I did, though. I keep thinking about last night. The sky, the colors, the stories you told. I can't get them out of my head." Nizoni nodded knowingly. "That is the way of the sky. It leaves traces in your heart. Little pieces of memory that will grow over time." Elias rubbed the back of his neck. "I feel, I don't know, like I'm part of something bigger, but I don't understand it yet." Althea stood and dusted her hands on her pants. "You will, Elias. That is why we came to you. There are things about humanity that need to be remembered. And you quiet, steady, caring, carry what the stars seek." Elias frowned. "Carry what the stars seek?" Althea led him toward the house. "Sit. We will tell you more. The stories are long, but they are important." Inside, the fire was already burning. Nizoni placed a few logs on it, and the flames crackled warmly. Elias settled into his chair, curious but patient. Althea began. "Long ago, humans spread across many worlds. Some worlds were full of life. Others were harsh and empty. We learned to adapt, to survive, and to create. But survival alone was never enough. We had to carry our stories, our lessons, our values, everything that made us human." Elias nodded slowly. "I've heard stories like that. In fragments. Legends from Earth. My grandmother told me. But I never thought they were real." Nizoni smiled gently. "They are real. Humanity's memory is the key. It is what defines us, even when we are far from home. That is why some families, like ours, became keepers. We were given the responsibility to preserve what humans learned, to ensure it never vanished, even in the farthest corners of the galaxy." Elias listened closely. He had always thought of himself as a simple rancher, a man who cared for his land and animals. Yet now, he felt that his life, quiet and ordinary as it seemed, had meaning beyond what he ever imagined. Althea continued. "The anomaly you saw last night, the sky shifting, was not a storm or a natural event. It is what we call an archive awakening. These are ancient devices left behind by humans long ago. They store memory, knowledge, and the essence of human culture. But they do not respond to machines or force. They respond to life lived with care, to hearts that remember humanity's truths." Elias felt a shiver. "So, the sky was watching me?" Althea nodded. "Yes. The sky seeks those who understand without needing proof. Those who care not for power or fame, but for life itself. It watches quietly and tests gently. And last night, it found you ready to listen." Elias felt a strange pride, mixed with humility. "I'm no hero. I do what I can." "That is enough," Nizoni said softly. "True strength is quiet. It does not boast, it nurtures. That is why the stars chose you." Elias sat back, letting the warmth of the fire and the sisters' words settle into him. For the first time, he saw his life in a different light. The care he had given to his land, his animals, even his neighbors in passing these things mattered. They were threads in a tapestry that reached far beyond him. Althea leaned forward, her eyes bright. "The archive will awaken fully only when it finds someone who can bear its memory, who can carry humanity's lessons forward. That someone is rarely found. And tonight, it will test you further." Elias's heart quickened. "Test me? How?" Nizoni smiled faintly. "By asking questions only a human heart can answer. by presenting visions and experiences, memories of your own life, and asking you to see their meaning. You will not face danger, but you will face understanding. It is not easy, but it is necessary. Elias took a deep breath. I think I am ready. I don't know what will happen, but I want to try. Althea reached across the table and placed a hand over his. That is all it asks. Your willingness to care, to remember, and to act with patience. That is the beginning. The sisters then moved to the window, gazing at the horizon. Elias followed their eyes, seeing the vast plains stretching endlessly. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then, slowly, a subtle glow appeared in the distance. Not as vivid as last night, but enough to make the grass shimmer and the rocks reflect light in unusual patterns. The archive is waking, Althea said quietly. Elias felt his pulse quicken. What do I do? Watch, Nijoni said. Listen. Let your heart guide you. The archive does not demand force, only understanding. As the day wore on, the sisters guided Elias through quiet exercises, moments of observation, listening, and reflection. They asked him to describe what he saw in the clouds, in the wind, and in the subtle changes of the land. They told him to remember his past, the care he had shown to animals, the hours spent tending plants, the moments of kindness he had given to strangers. At first, Elias felt uncertain. How could these simple memories matter to anything as vast as the stars? But as he spoke aloud, something inside him shifted. He began to see connections between his actions and the larger world, between his life and the endless story of humanity. Every choice, every act of care, was like a thread in a grand tapestry. By evening, the glow on the horizon had grown stronger. Elias stood outside, feeling the wind on his face. The sisters joined him, and together they watched as the colors in the sky began to move in patterns that seemed almost like language lines and shapes, swirling and twisting. The archive communicates in symbols, Althea explained, but it does not require that you read them as words. It asks that you feel their meaning, that you understand humanity's story, and your part in it. Elias closed his eyes, letting the wind carry his thoughts. Memories of his childhood, his family, and his quiet life on the ranch flowed through him. The stories the sisters had told, the care of ancestors, the importance of memory, the responsibility of humans mingled with his own experiences. He felt as though the world itself were alive, breathing with him, listening to him. Hours passed, and the sun finally dipped below the horizon. The glow of the archive faded, leaving only the subtle shimmer of stars above. Yet Elias felt a deep satisfaction, a sense that he had taken the first step in a journey larger than himself. Althea placed a hand on his shoulder. You are ready, Elias. The next phase will begin when the sky awakens fully. Until then, continue to observe, to care, and to remember. Everything you do matters more than you know. Elias nodded, feeling a quiet determination. I understand. I will try my best. The sisters smiled. That is enough. The stars asked no more. That night, Elias lay in his small bed, listening to the gentle hum of the plains. For the first time in his life, he felt part of something greater, something infinite, patient, and alive. He thought of the sisters, of the archive, and of humanity's story stretching across the stars. And though sleep eventually took him, the awareness of that night, the night he began to understand his place in the vast tapestry of life, remained in his heart, steady and enduring. Tomorrow, he knew, would bring new lessons. But tonight, for the first time, he felt a connection to the universe that was profound, silent, and beautiful. Outside, the stars watched, waiting for the moment when humanity's story would speak clearly through him. The morning air on Iridian 5 was cool and calm, carrying the soft scent of dry grass and warm earth. Elias woke before dawn, as he always did, but he felt a strange restlessness. The sky above was pale and quiet now, but he remembered the glowing, shifting colors from the night before. Something had changed inside him. He was not the same man who had gone to bed hours earlier. Downstairs, the sisters were already awake. Althea was tending to a small collection of herbs by the window, while Najoni fed the animals with careful, quiet movements. Elias paused at the doorway, watching them. He admired their calm, their focus, and the way they moved, as if they were part of the land itself. "Good morning," he said softly. Althea looked up and smiled. "Good morning, Elias. Did you sleep well?" Elias shrugged. "I did. But I feel like something is waiting for me. Something I need to understand." "That is correct," Najoni said, her voice gentle. "The archive tests not by force, but by understanding. Tonight, the sky will awaken again. You will see visions, experiences from your own life, and the challenge will be to find their meaning." Elias frowned. "Visions? What kind of experiences?" Althea motioned for him to sit. "Not all experiences are easy to explain. They may be moments from your past. Moments of care, of choice, of quiet courage." The archive asks, "Do you understand what it means to be human, to live, to care, to preserve life and memory?" You will face these questions not with words alone, but with thought, reflection, and feeling. Elias nodded slowly. I will try. I think I can." Najoni placed a hand on his shoulder. "You already have. The archive recognizes the heart before it tests the mind. You have lived honestly, patiently, and with care. That is what matters most." The day passed quietly, yet Elias felt a growing anticipation. He worked on small chores around the ranch, feeding the animals, fixing fences, and tending his modest garden. But his thoughts often wandered to the archive, to the sky, and to the sisters' words. Each task he performed felt more meaningful, as if the world itself were observing his actions, quietly measuring his attention and care. By evening, the sky had begun to shift once more. Elias noticed a subtle shimmer along the horizon, a faint glow that pulsed softly in rhythm with the wind. He felt a mixture of awe and nervousness. This time, he would not simply observe, he would experience. The sisters joined him outside. Althea spoke first. "Elias, the archive will show you fragments of your life, and ask you to see their meaning. It may show you times you thought were ordinary, times you thought unimportant. Everything carries value. Everything has lessons." Elias took a deep breath. "I understand. I will look carefully." As the light grew stronger, he felt a strange warmth spread through him. It was not heat from the sun or fire, but a sensation deep inside, like a pulse of energy. Then, suddenly, the world around him changed. He found himself standing in the fields of his childhood home, though the place felt distant, almost like a memory seen through a mist. His parents were there, tending a small garden. Young Elias ran among the plants, laughing as he chased a dog that barked joyfully. The scene was vivid, yet calm. Elias watched himself, feeling the joy and simplicity of those early days. Then, a quiet voice seemed to whisper in his mind. "What did you learn here? What did you carry forward?" Elias thought carefully. He remembered the patience he had learned from his parents, the care for life around him, and the joy of small accomplishments. "I learned to care," he whispered. "I learned that small acts matter, that life is precious, even in quiet moments." The vision shifted. Now he was on the plains of Iridian, 5 months after he first settled there. He remembered repairing a broken fence during a sandstorm, working alone for hours to protect his animals. The wind howled, yet he did not stop. Even when exhaustion weighed him down. Again, the voice asked, "Why did you do this?" Elias realized the answer came not from bravery, but from responsibility. "Because it was needed," he said softly. "Because life depends on care. Because no one else was here to do it." The scene changed again, this time showing moments he had spent helping neighbors in passing, delivering extra vegetables, offering tools, or simply listening to a friend in need. Each small action, forgotten in the rush of daily life, now shone brightly in the vision. "Do you see?" the voice asked. "This is the measure of a human. Not power, not fame, not wealth, but care, attention, and the choice to act when needed." Elias felt tears prick his eyes. He had never thought of himself as important. He had simply lived his life quietly, doing what was right in the moment. And yet, the archive showed him that these small choices mattered immensely. The final vision took him to the present, to his ranch with the sisters by his side. The glow from the horizon pulsed brighter, forming patterns that almost resembled constellations. It was as if the archive itself were acknowledging him. Althea's voice sounded gently in his mind. "You are ready, Elias. You have understood what it means to be human. You have seen that life is measured not by grand deeds, but by quiet devotion, by care, and by responsibility." Elias felt a deep sense of calm and clarity. "I understand," he whispered. "I see it now." The glow slowly faded, leaving the plains bathed in the gentle light of the stars. The sisters stood silently beside him, their faces calm but proud. "You have passed the first test," Nijoni said. "The archive will continue to watch, but tonight, it recognized your heart. It recognized humanity through your actions and choices. That is no small thing." Elias nodded. "I feel changed. I see my life differently now. Even the small things, feeding animals, tending the land, they matter in ways I never imagined." Althea smiled warmly. "That is the lesson. Humanity's strength is not only in survival, but in care, thoughtfulness, and the preservation of life. The stars remember those who act with integrity, patience, and love. And through them, humanity continues its story across the galaxy." For the first time, Elias felt truly connected, not just to the land or the people around him, but to the vast, endless universe. He understood that his ordinary life had meaning far beyond his imagination. Every action, every choice, every moment of care contributed to a larger story, one that spanned worlds and generations. The sisters guided him inside as the night deepened. Around the fire, they spoke quietly, helping him reflect on the experiences he had just witnessed. Elias realized that understanding humanity was not about grand gestures or fame. It was about the quiet, steady acts of care that shaped the world in subtle but profound ways. Before going to bed, Elias stepped outside one last time. The stars above shimmered gently, no longer shifting as violently as before, but glowing with a quiet, steady presence. He felt their silent acknowledgement, as if they were saying, "We see you. Humanity continues through you." He returned inside, feeling calm and purposeful. For the first time, he truly understood the weight of his life, not as a burden, but as a gift. He had been measured, tested, and recognized by something far larger than himself. And he had passed. As he lay in bed that night, Elias thought of the sisters, of the archive, and of the countless human stories across time and space. His ordinary life, lived with care and attention, had become extraordinary in its own way, and he understood that the next chapter, whatever it might be, would build upon this understanding, guiding him toward a destiny he had never imagined. Outside, the wind whispered across the plains, soft and calm. The stars above twinkled, patient and eternal, as if waiting for the next step in humanity's story. And Elias slept, filled with quiet pride, clarity, and the knowledge that even a single human life, lived with care, could leave a mark upon the universe. The morning sun bathed Elias's ranch in a warm, golden light. The wind moved softly through the plains, carrying the scent of dry grass and wildflowers. After the night's experiences with the archive, Elias felt different. He walked with a quiet purpose, noticing the tiniest details of the land, the way the soil smelled after the morning dew, the gentle movements of the animals, and the soft rustle of leaves. Althea and Nijoni were already awake. Althea had spread herbs across a wooden table, carefully drying them, while Nijoni was feeding the animals, whispering kind words to each one. Their calm presence grounded Elias. They had guided him this far, helping him understand what it meant to be human in a universe that watched quietly, patiently, for those who cared. "Good morning, Elias," Althea said, her voice gentle. "You slept well, I hope." Elias nodded. "I did, and I feel ready. I think I understand the lessons of the archive, but I want to know more what comes next." Nizoni smiled. "Next, you will see what humans leave behind. The archive does not only test the past. It seeks to understand the impact of life lived with care. It will ask you to consider not only what you do, but what you leave for others." Elias took a deep breath. He had never thought much about legacy. On the ranch, he had always focused on daily tasks: feeding the animals, repairing fences, planting crops. But now, he realized that even these ordinary acts shaped the world around him, creating ripples that could extend far beyond his sight. By evening, the sky began to shimmer with the soft glow of the archive. The sisters guided Elias outside, where the plains stretched endlessly under the stars. The glow was more vivid than before, forming subtle patterns that seemed to dance in rhythm with the wind. "This time," Althea said, "the archive will show you the effects of your life, not only your actions, but the consequences of your care." Elias focused, letting his mind and heart open. Slowly, the visions appeared. First, he saw the small animals he had raised: the sheep, goats, and even the few chickens he had tended so carefully. In the visions, they thrived beyond what seemed possible, spreading across nearby farms, helping other settlers. They were healthy, calm, and strong. Elias realized that his patience, attention, and quiet care had allowed life to flourish far beyond his immediate view. Then the scene shifted. He saw neighbors he had helped over the years, receiving the small gifts and kindnesses he had given them: a basket of vegetables, a mended tool, a kind word. These small gestures multiplied in ways he had never imagined. Families he barely remembered were stronger, happier, and more capable because of his quiet support. "Do you see?" a voice whispered in his mind. "These are the echoes of your life. This is what humans leave behind. Every choice, every act of care, creates a pattern that spreads far and wide." Elias felt tears fill his eyes. He had never imagined that his ordinary actions could have such far-reaching effects. Every moment of patience, every quiet act of thoughtfulness, every small effort to protect and nurture life had left a mark. He understood now that humanity's strength lay not in grand gestures or fame, but in the steady, caring presence of ordinary lives lived with purpose. The visions continued, now showing the sisters themselves. They were part of a long line of keepers, people who had preserved humanity's memory across generations. Through their actions, the archive had remained alive, responding to those who carried the essence of what it meant to be human. Elias saw how his life had intersected with theirs, creating a connection that was small but essential. Althea's voice spoke softly. "Elias, you have lived well. Your choices, your care, your attention to life, these are the foundations upon which humanity endures. The archive has recognized you as a living witness. Through you, the legacy of human wisdom and memory continues." Elias swallowed hard, trying to comprehend the weight of her words. I never thought of myself as important. I've only lived quietly, day by day." "That is exactly why you are important," Nizoni said. "The archive seeks those who act without seeking recognition, those who care not for glory but for life itself. That is the measure of humanity, Elias. That is what is remembered." The sky's glow grew brighter, wrapping the plains in gentle light. Elias felt as if the stars themselves were acknowledging him, acknowledging his quiet life of care and purpose. The archive was not a machine, not a test of strength or intelligence. It was a witness, responding to the true value of life lived with attention, responsibility, and love. Elias realized that this was more than recognition. It was an opportunity, a responsibility. The archive had awakened to humanity, And he was now a bridge, a living connection between the past, present, and future. His ordinary life had become extraordinary, not because of fame or power, but because of the quiet impact he had made on the world and on those around him. The sisters guided him back inside, where the fire crackled softly. They spoke quietly, helping him reflect on the visions he had seen. "Every act matters," Althea said. "Even the smallest gestures leave echoes. Humanity's story is carried forward not by grand events, but by countless quiet choices, repeated across time." Elias nodded. "I see it now. The animals, the neighbors, the land. Every moment of care has meaning. Even the quiet life I've led has contributed to something larger." Nizoni smiled. "That is the essence of the archive. It does not seek heroes or conquerors. It seeks humans who live fully, who care deeply, who preserve the essence of life and memory. And now, Elias, it recognizes you as one of them." Elias felt a deep sense of peace. For the first time, he truly understood the impact of his life. He had thought that quiet, ordinary living was insignificant, but now he saw that every act of care, every moment of thoughtfulness, every small effort to nurture life was part of a larger story, a story that stretched across generations and worlds. The sisters left him alone for a while, allowing him to reflect in silence. Elias walked across his ranch, touching the soil, observing the animals, and listening to the wind. He felt connected to everything: the land, the stars, the people he had helped, and the generations of humans who had lived before him. His life, quiet as it had seemed, was part of something vast, timeless, and beautiful. As night fell, the sky shimmered again, softer this time, like a gentle pulse across the universe. Elias stood outside, looking at the stars. He understood now that humanity's legacy was not in battles or power, but in care, patience, and memory. Every choice mattered. Every act of life left a mark that could reach far beyond what anyone could see. Althea and Nizoni returned, standing beside him. "You are ready, Elias," Althea said. "The archive will continue to awaken and observe, but it has found in you the qualities it seeks. Through your life, humanity's story will continue." Elias smiled quietly. "I understand. I will do my best to live with care and to preserve what matters." "That is all the archive asks," Nizoni said. "Every day, every choice, every act of care, these are the threads that carry humanity forward. You have learned well." The night stretched on, calm and quiet. Elias looked at the stars, feeling their gentle presence. For the first time, he felt that he truly belonged to something larger than himself. He was a small part of a vast universe, yet his actions mattered. His quiet life had left echoes that would continue long after he was gone. And as he lay in bed that night, Elias thought of the archive, the sisters, and the countless humans whose quiet acts of care had shaped the universe in ways no one could measure. He realized that this was the true measure of humanity: not power, not conquest, but attention, care, and the legacy left behind through every thoughtful action. Outside, the wind whispered softly across the plains, carrying the gentle hum of life. The stars glimmered, patient and eternal, as if acknowledging Elias and his quiet, enduring contribution to humanity's story. And in that moment, Elias felt a sense of peace, purpose, and connection that he had never known before. He had been measured, recognized, and prepared for the next stage. And tomorrow, he would step further into the responsibility of being a living witness, a keeper of memory, and a bearer of humanity's enduring legacy. The first light of dawn spread slowly over the plains of Iridian 5. Elias stood outside his small ranch house, breathing in the crisp morning air. The wind moved gently across the fields, carrying the soft scent of the earth and the tall grasses. The sky was calm now, but Elias could feel a quiet hum beneath the horizon, a subtle pulse, as though the universe itself were alive and aware. Since the awakening of the archive, Elias had changed. The lessons he had learned from Althea and Nizoni, the visions of his life, and the understanding of humanity's quiet strength had shaped him in ways he could never have imagined. He no longer saw his work on the ranch as mere survival. Every moment, every choice, every act of care carried weight. Every action could ripple across time, touching lives far beyond his sight. The sisters were already awake, preparing breakfast in their quiet way. Althea was arranging herbs, while Najoni gently tended the animals, whispering to them with kind words. Elias watched them for a moment, realizing again how extraordinary their presence was. They had guided him, taught him, and helped him see the deeper meaning in his ordinary life. "Good morning," he said softly. Althea looked up and smiled. "Good morning, Elias. Are you ready for today?" Elias nodded. "I think so. I feel different. I understand more now, and I want to see what comes next." Najoni approached him, her eyes bright and calm. "Today, the archive will show you not only the past and the effects of your care, but the role you will play in the future. It will prepare you to become a living witness, a keeper of humanity's memory and legacy." Elias felt a mixture of awe and humility. A living witness? What does that mean? Althea motioned for him to follow her outside. The plains stretched endlessly under the rising sun, the tall grasses swaying gently. In the distance, a soft glow appeared, spreading slowly across the horizon. The light pulsed gently, like the heartbeat of the world. "This is the archive," Althea said. "It responds to life lived with care. You have been recognized, Elias, but recognition is only the beginning. To truly carry humanity forward, you must become a part of the archive itself, a living connection between human memory, experience, and the universe." Elias's heart quickened. How do I do that?" Najoni smiled. "Simply by living, by observing, by caring. The archive does not demand grand gestures. It asks only that you continue to act with integrity, thoughtfulness, and love. Your ordinary life has extraordinary meaning. Through your choices, your memory, and your presence, humanity will endure." Elias took a deep breath, feeling the wind against his face. He thought of his parents, his childhood, the animals he had raised, the neighbors he had helped, and the countless small acts of care he had offered over the years. Everything he had done mattered. He understood now that ordinary life, lived with attention and thoughtfulness, was the greatest gift he could offer the universe. The glow on the horizon grew brighter, forming patterns that shimmered like constellations, shifting slowly, as though communicating in a language beyond words. Elias felt a strange warmth spread through him, not from the sun or fire, but from within an awareness of connection, responsibility, and purpose. Althea spoke softly. "The archive will now integrate you as a living witness. It will observe and respond through your actions, your choices, your life. You do not need to leave this place or do anything extraordinary. Simply be, live fully, care deeply, and remember humanity's lessons." Elias nodded slowly, understanding. I can do that. I will live with care. For the land, for the people, for the future. I will carry the memory of humanity." Nizoni's eyes shone with quiet pride. "That is all the archive asks. You are ready." As the day unfolded, Elias returned to his chores with a new sense of purpose. He fed the animals, repaired fences, and tended his garden, noticing the beauty in every detail. Every movement felt significant. Every choice mattered. Even the smallest acts of care resonated through the world, leaving echoes that would continue long after he was gone. The sisters watched silently, their presence calm and grounding. They had guided him to this moment, and now they stepped back, allowing Elias to take his place as the quiet center of humanity's story. As the sun set, painting the sky in soft oranges and purples, the archive's glow appeared once more, subtle but persistent. Elias stood outside, watching the patterns of light shift and flow. He realized that through him, the archive now had a living connection to human life. Every thought, every choice, every act of care he made was a thread woven into the vast tapestry of humanity. For the first time, Elias understood what it meant to leave a legacy. It was not about monuments or recognition. It was about the quiet, steady presence of care, the preservation of life, and the thoughtful choices that shaped the world. His ordinary life had become extraordinary in its impact, connecting past, present, and future. Days turned into months, and Elias continued his life on the ranch. The sisters remained for a time, guiding him, teaching him, and helping him refine his understanding of the archive. They shared stories of other keepers, humans who had preserved wisdom and memory across centuries. Elias listened, learning that every person, every choice, every act of care was part of a vast network, connecting humanity across worlds and generations. Eventually, Althea and Najoni departed, leaving Elias to continue his life alone. He felt their absence, but also their trust. He was ready. The archive's presence was woven into the rhythm of his days, guiding him silently, responding to his choices, and recording the quiet impact of his life. Elias's life continued, marked by patience, attention, and care. He repaired fences, tended his garden, and fed his animals. He helped neighbors, shared knowledge, and preserved the land with thoughtful care. Every day was ordinary in appearance, but extraordinary in meaning. Through his actions, humanity's story continued. Years passed. The archive remained, ever present, responding through Elias. Occasionally, he would look to the stars and feel their subtle acknowledgement, as though they were watching patiently, quietly approving the life he led. He understood that this was the essence of human strength, the ability to leave a legacy not through power, conquest, or fame, but through careful, thoughtful, and loving action. Elias grew older, but the archive kept him in harmony with time. He did not seek immortality, only the continuation of life and memory. Every action, every choice, every moment of care became a thread in the vast tapestry of humanity, stretching across space and generations. Even as decades passed, the ranch remained a place of quiet life and care. The animals thrived, the land flourished, and the echoes of Elias's choices extended far beyond the small fields and fences he tended. He had become a living witness, a quiet center through which the archive preserved the memory of humanity. One night, as Elias watched the stars, he felt a gentle pulse beneath his feet, the subtle acknowledgement of the archive. He realized that through him, humanity's story had reached the wider universe. Aliens, distant civilizations, and travelers across the stars would one day know, not of conquest or war, but of human care, thoughtfulness, and endurance. Elias smiled, feeling a deep peace. He had lived quietly, simply, and well. His ordinary acts had become extraordinary. Humanity's story continued, not in grand battles or monuments, but in the quiet, patient, and enduring presence of those who lived with care. He closed his eyes, letting the night and the stars embrace him. The wind whispered softly across the plains, carrying the quiet hum of life, memory, and connection. Elias understood that his life, though small and simple, was now part of something eternal, and far above, the stars glimmered, patient and steady, reflecting the enduring strength of humanity. Through Elias, through ordinary care and thoughtful action, the human legacy continued, quietly, beautifully, and forever. In that moment, Elias felt truly at peace. He was a small man on a quiet ranch, yet he had become a bridge between the past, the present, and the future, a living witness to humanity's story. And the universe, vast and eternal, listened. He smiled once more, knowing that even in the quietest, simplest life, there was meaning beyond imagination. And that was enough. The archive pulsed softly in the distance, and Elias, the quiet rancher, continued his life, leaving behind a legacy that would ripple across time and space, forever carrying the strength of humanity.